checking with the board attorney. Makes sense. But again, I put the motion on to let's wait to hear from the School Ethics Commission that this is kind of what they do. And that's, I obviously I respect everybody's decision.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't believe that this is what they do. The contents of your letter, because of what Nancy said, because that it could be interpreted as you speaking for the board, the contents of the letters is actually asking them to serve as arbiter of a minority disagreement with a majority vote, which is not what they do. It wasn't framed as a request for, is my present or future action a potential violation of the Code of Ethics? So
I think that's the spirit of it, Jen. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not an attorney. I've never written a letter to the School Ethics Commission. The spirit of it was to, in fact, say, this is what I do. I'm on the HSA, and is this a conflict of interest? And please educate us. I mean, that's really all. And so what I'm sorry, if you want to finish.
no, go ahead.
So what I was really just going to say was, shall I make another motion that if we are going to adopt, which obviously everyone's voting on it, or the majority is voting to adopt this policy, that we strike from it, pursuant to the Code of Ethics. Because if we're not willing to wait for the decision and we're not exactly sure, again, because that's what we've been debating.
But see, we're not debating. We are sure. The policy comes out of a corroboration of a prior belief that the majority of the board holds that it is consonant with the Code of Ethics.
Okay.
So it's not actually a debate. I understand that you object to it and you have every right to have your opinion on that, but it's not actually a debate. We have formed an opinion already, which was codified in the first reading approval of this.
Okay. Well, again, I just want to go on the record by saying it's not a cut and dry thing, and the School Ethics Commission has ruled that it is okay to be on the board and on the PTA or HSA, if you will. So
I'm not sure that the issue or question you're going to this is the first time I've had a chance in a public setting to have this discussion. I had it with a number of you, and you and I talked about it quite a bit too. So the issue, just to be clear, is not whether you or any of the rest of us could serve on the PTA or on the school association. That's a known fact that we can. We could do that. And we can participate in other activities too. I've been a member of the band Boosters. I have a similar experience that I got called on by a parent early in my board years, and I, like Nancy, she didn't get called on hers. I did too. I was a Booster club president. And I had a parent upset with me and said to me, isn't it a conflict that you're on a member of the Board of Education? And I said no, but I didn't check into it. But I began to start when this issue came up. So I don't want to give anybody out here the impression that we don't want you or any of the rest of us to be members. I think the issue is, and the word was used a couple of times, executive. And so what's happened here, and I was trying to think of the best way to kind of say this in the most responsible way, is you graduated. You graduated. You're in a different situation now, and I know it's been said that way, and you're new at this, but one of the concerns that this body has had, it even changes the point of influence. And we've got teachers here and parents here that we have to make sure as a body, and I'm speaking for myself, it's my own opinion, but I think this opinion is agreed upon by other members of this body sitting here, that our presence, our interactions with staff, and we walk in the buildings, and particularly with the principal who presidents have a lot of interaction with, or some interaction with, is above reproach, above question, and it's that feeling that I think it's been expressed by people here. I haven't heard it as a group, but I haven't heard it individually, that has driven us to write this. And so, to Gary's point, and he used the word bias, I don't think it's that strong, Gary, but is there some correlation between your feelings about it in your official title, and it very well might be, but this body is what within its rights to craft the policy.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm definitely not challenging that. It's just, if it's an issue of staff members feeling uncomfortable when board members are in the building, that's one thing, as opposed to, this is what the code of ethics is telling us to
Staff
do.
members feeling uncomfortable when board members are in the building because we all volunteer, many of us do, I do, in schools. It's acting in an executive role with other parents and staff members where the types of discussions that are going on could make a teacher or an administrator or staff member uncomfortable because you happen to be one of 10 evaluators of the superintendent. So whatever that kind of conversation is going on, and that's a very sensitive and big responsibility.
Sure, yeah, and
If you want to evaluate the superintendent, then maybe we'd be having a different discussion, but you graduate.
Look, and I respect that, and I respect all of your experience, on the board, in the schools. I absolutely do. Again, I just think we need to be clear about why we're doing it. Is it because staff are uncomfortable, or is it because the code of ethics?
Those are related, actually. They're related. I mean, the code of ethics is foundational to our behavior vis-a-vis the staff and personnel of the district. And it's in place so that the line isn't blurred between, say, being a parent or working collegially with members of the staff and being an official body of the district that makes personnel decisions about those very people. So the reason it's uncomfortable for staff is because it trips up that code.
Can I just say a couple of words before we bring this to a close? I've been on the board a long time and consider this to be a very high-functioning board. I think most everybody in this district would agree, people in the county agree. We were able to attract top-flight administrators, teachers, superintendent to the district because of that. And some of our core values, Meredith, are that we are collaborative, we are consensus-driven, and we maintain a high level of trust with one another. We are transparent with one another. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say. There are not agendas, there are not things that are not being said to other board members that are not being said outside the board and not being said to board members. And I think that's really important that we have that trust. I think we have had this discussion about this policy for at least 2 months now, many times, you with several different members of the board. We've explained our reasoning. I think we have, although those of us who went to school boards at the end of October would say that it seems like the ethics current is moving in the direction of prohibiting a board member from serving in an executive position in the school. We agree it's not yet there, but it was our takeaway from the conference that that is the best practice. We knew we wanted to redo policies. We knew with your winning the election and coming on board that that was a policy we should do sooner rather than later because it directly was implicated. That is the reason. You weren't targeted. There was no bias, and it's actually a little discouraging to hear that that might be perceived that way because that isn't the case, and you've been told many, many times why it happened the way it happened, what our process was, what our evidence was, why we did what we did. This is not any kind of targeting.
I don't think I ever said there was.
You didn't say so to me, but we hear it. And if we hear it, then we're concerned. And we need to know that you're with us, that when the board makes a decision, even though you don't agree with it, and let me tell you, in 21 years, there have been times that I have vehemently disagreed with the consensus of the board. But it's the board, and you step behind it. You support it. You don't, it is the number one quality of a dysfunctional board, that board members go out into the parking lot, talk to the press, talk to their cohorts of friends, and start undermining what the board has just voted on. We have to be together. That's what makes us strong and functional. And we want you to be part of that. With all due respect, you haven't even had your training yet. So I think as you get your training, you will better understand where we're coming from. You're coming out of an HSA environment. We understand why you feel the way you feel and why you might get somewhat resentful. But you're going to have to trust us, as we've said many, many times. And even if you don't want to, you're going to have to accept whatever the board decides to do.
Sure,
That,
absolutely.
it's true. It is short, and it is absolutely, because that's the only way we function. We have a ton of really important stuff on our plates, including this health and wellness initiative. We have curricular initiatives. We have interoperability initiatives. And this, as you've said over and over again, this is simply small potatoes. We've given it a lot of time. I would say, let's have a vote. And then whatever we decide, in policy, nothing is written in stone. Policies can always be modified at any point in time if the board determines them. We'll move on. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
I have one just quick comment in response to Mr. Thomas's comments earlier, the belief that this was some kind of bias inherent in our decision. I did want to point out, in case you didn't know, that this policy affected me as well. I stepped down as secretary of the HSA at Hillcrest. It certainly affects my 3 colleagues who also have children in the schools and may at some point have aspired to be parent leaders in the schools or HSA presidents. So this is something that will affect all board members, present and future. It's not written for one person uniquely.
Yeah, I'd just like to
It's
point
not a
out,
time
since
for
my name's been
discussion.
mentioned several times,
I'm sorry, it's
and
not
my
a time for
words
discussion.
that I used the term inadvertent bias, and that was the whole point of my
Okay.
discussion,
Thank
is
you.
inadvertent, unknowing bias.
So are there any other points? Shall we?
Ms. Van Joel,
Yes.
Ms. Davidson,
No.
Dr. Gallerstein.
I'm abstaining for the first time in 15 years because I'm in favor of it, but I think it's too narrow, and I don't want the position closed. And that's why I abstain for the next position.
Mr. Posey,
Yes.
Mrs. Bruins, Dr. Van Frank,
Yes.
Ms. Pollak.
Yes.
Educational matters, motions 1 and 2.
Morristown.